All right, the season's done and dusted. The trophies have been lifted, the confetti's been swept up, and already Celtic are turning the page and looking ahead. And it looks like we're about to dive headfirst into transfer season with a wee bit more purpose than usual. Two very specific names have cropped up in the last few days, and when you connect the dots, you start to see the early sketches of a proper strategy for the summer window. It's not just scattergun rumors there's a direction, youth raw talent, and high potential resale value. That's what it looks like, at least for now. So let's have a proper blether about it, starting with a name that's not exactly rolling off the tongue just yet, but might be soon if things keep moving. Veljko Milosavljevic. Now he's just 17. Still a teenager, and already getting linked with a move to Celtic, plays for Red Star Belgrade or Crvena Zvezda if you want to get all official about it. Reports from Serbia claim there's already been a rejected bid, though folk closer to the club say that's not quite the case. Still, where there's smoke, there's usually at least a wee spark. And the interesting bit is that Celtic have apparently been running the rule over him for a while now. Scouts have been checking him out, and the name's been floated about internally. But it's not just us. Liverpool are sniffing around Everton too, and even Paris Saint-Germain are keeping tabs. That's the level we're talking about. Red Star reckon they can get about £9 million for the lad, which is a hefty chunk of change. Let's be honest, that sort of fee usually has Celtic backing off sharpish. But here's the thing, there's a belief that we might be able to tempt him by offering something the others can: actual first-team football. Not just a spot in the reserves, not just training with the stars and watching from the sidelines, but real minutes on the pitch in front of a full parkhead wearing the hoops. So what do we know about the boy? Not much, truth be told. There's not a ton of info out there, which sort of tells its own story. He's burst onto the scene pretty quickly. Seems to be highly rated, but he's still not played all that much. Senior football. Which, fair enough, he's only just turned 17. Not everyone's Lamina Yamal making waves before they can vote. Milosavljevic only really broke into Red Star's first team around October last year. Before that, he was turning out in the UEFA Youth League. He didn't play a single minute in any of Red Star's 10 Champions League fixtures, even in qualifying. Though he did make the bench for the final couple of games. So not quite a regular at the top level yet, but he's been progressing fast. From what footage there is, he's clearly a big lad. Well over 6 foot, maybe around 6'3" or 4. Built like a proper centre half. And he's still got time to grow physically and mentally, uses his frame well, doesn't get bullied off the ball, and tries to play out from the back when he can. Now let's not get carried away. Some clips make you wince a bit, like you're watching a deer on ice, wondering if he's about to tumble and gift the ball to the opposition. But to be fair to him, he doesn't actually do that. He stays composed and gets on with it. There's a rawness to him, no doubt, but that's part of the appeal. You're not buying the finished article, you're buying potential and hoping your environment can turn that into something special. One name that springs to mind, maybe just because of the similar profile, is Jozo Simunovic. Remember him. Came in young from Dinamo Zagreb, had a bit of pedigree, and while he did a job for us, he probably didn't quite hit the heights we were all hoping for. It feels like Milosavljevic might be a similar roll of the dice. Only this time with an even higher ceiling, and if we think he could be the next big thing, the kind of player that can give us a couple of solid seasons before being flipped for a massive fee, then we need to be in there early before the price rockets out of reach. It's also just nice to see us linked with a centre back this early in the window. That position's been quietly bubbling under as a real area of need. Now, if you just look at the numbers, you might think we're well stocked. We've got 7 centre halves on the books when all the loanees come back. But how many of them are genuinely good enough to build around Cameron Carter-Vickers is the main man, no doubt about it. Then you've got Austin Trusty and Liam Scales, who both played a fair bit this past season. Dane Murray is one for the future and seems to have Brendan Rodgers backing. To what extent, we'll find out soon enough. After that, it gets murky. Mike Naroki, Gustav Lagerbilke, and Stephen Welsh are all still there technically, but none of them feel like long-term solutions. Personally, I quite like Naroki. Think he might actually be the second best centre-half we've got at the club. Looked solid in the few games he managed to play towards the end of the campaign. Especially stood out in the derby. And again, away at Pittodrie. Composed clean and looked like he could strike up a decent partnership with Carter-Vickers. But it doesn't feel like Rodgers rates him as much. Maybe preseason changes that. Maybe he gets a proper run and proves himself. But right now it's all ifs and buts. As for Lagerbilke and Welsh, it's hard to see them forcing their way back in. If we shift two of those names, it opens the door for someone like Milosavljevic to come in and stake a claim. Now, Trusty's an interesting one. His first year wasn't a disaster by any stretch. We saw flashes of what he can bring. Some good performances, some shaky ones, and maybe he just needs that second season to really settle. But the fact we're still having the same conversation we were having a year ago, who's going to partner Carter Vickers? That tells you the issue hasn't been fully resolved. I was hoping by now we'd have nailed that down. And listen, Trusty and Scales have their place. They can both contribute. But ideally, they're squad players. Rotation options. Not your week in, week out starters in the Champions League or crunch. League matches. What we need, and I'm whispering this like it's a secret, but I should be screaming it, is another Cameron Carter Vickers. Someone with that presence, that composure, that leadership. Because you imagine a back four next season, Alistair Johnston, at right back Kieran Tierney, assuming we get him in. At left back Carter Vickers on the right of the center. All you're missing is that final piece of the puzzle beside him. Could Milosavljevic be that guy? Maybe, but only if we move decisively. Right, so we've had a good go at the centre-back situation, but there's more going on behind the scenes at Celtic, and the second transfer link that's popped up adds another interesting piece to the puzzle. But this time we're talking about the left-back position, and the name being floated is a 19-year-old Japanese lad called Kato Kasuji. Plays over in Sweden for Djurgårdens, and just like Milosavljevic, he's had a bit of a meteoric rise. It's the same story. Young, hungry, and showing enough promise to get linked with some of the biggest names in Europe. In this case, it's PSG again, who've been sniffing about, and reports from Japan even mention Atalanta and ourselves keeping close tabs. Now what makes this one a bit more intriguing is that it's a report coming straight from Japan, not just recycled gossip, bouncing around Europe. Spunici, a proper outlet over there, has put our name in the mix, which always makes you raise an eyebrow. That's not to say it's done or even close, but it's a lot more solid than your usual paper talk. And if you take a look at the boy, granted all we've got are a few clips on YouTube, he ticks a lot of boxes. He's rapid, he's got good close control, and he drives with the ball like a modern-day fullback should. Very reminiscent of someone like Emilio Izaguirre at his best. Remember him knocking it past defenders and flying down the line. Kasuji's got a bit of that in him. Not afraid to go forward to take players on. Even did the old knock it own way and sprint round the other. Move a few times. Love to see that. He's not the biggest mind. Wee bit diminutive, probably around 5'7" or so, but he doesn't shy away from a challenge. Technically sharp, full of energy, and clearly growing into his role at Djurgårdens. They had a cracking European campaign this year, reached the semi-finals of the UEFA Conference League, would you believe, and he was a regular throughout. Now he never played a first-team game back in Japan for Shonan Bellmare before heading to Sweden, which tells you something about the gamble Djurgårdens took. But it's paid off for them. He went there on trial, got picked up, and when their first choice left back left for Roma, a boy called Samuel Dahl, who's now at Benfica, Kasuji stepped right in and made that position his own. That's not easy at 19. That tells you. There's a serious player in there. Hasn't been capped by the senior Japan team yet, but he's played plenty at youth level, and there's talk of him getting a call-up soon. Apparently, the national team manager is sticking with the current squad since they've already qualified for the World Cup, so no new faces for now. Which, to be fair, is a bit gutting if you're a fan in Australia who bought tickets hoping to see Dyson Maeda or Kyogo turn out in Perth. But that's another story. Kasuji's not in the squad either, but he's on the radar. And that's always a good sign. If PSG are interested, you're doing something right. From a Celtic perspective, left back is another area that clearly needs addressing. Kieran Tierney looks like he's on his way back, and that's fantastic news, if it happens. But we can't rely on him to play every match. We know that. Injuries have followed him everywhere, and if we're serious about going deep in Europe and reclaiming domestic dominance, we need depth. Greg Taylor looks like he could be moving on, and Jeff Schlupp, who barely featured anyway, isn't expected to stick around. So right now, we don't actually have another proper left back in the squad. Bringing in a player like Kasuji makes a lot of sense. He'd get minutes learned from Tierney and develop under Brendan Rodgers, who's shown he can improve young players if they got the right mentality. What's also interesting here is that a move for someone like Kasuji doesn't necessarily scream long-term backup. He's a player you could imagine pushing for a starting spot in a season or two. Maybe even sooner if Tierney has another injury spell. And from what we've seen of Celtic's rotation this past season, there's going to be plenty of opportunities. It wouldn't be like when Alexandro Bernabé came in and barely got a sniff because Taylor played almost every match. This time around, game time could be a lot more evenly spread. So between Milosavljevic at centre-back and Kasuji at left-back, we're seeing a pattern. Celtic seem to be targeting young players with a clear upside ones, who aren't finished products, but have already shown they can perform at a good level. It fits with the club's model, develop, play, sell high. But more importantly, it's about refreshing a squad that, let's be honest, went a bit stale towards the end of the season. Midfield lost its spark, especially after Hatate's injury. Creativity dried up. The Scottish Cup final and even the league's final few games showed how flat we looked without someone pulling the strings. We need reinforcements, not just numbers but real quality. A centre-back who can start, a left-back to compete with Tierney, a midfielder who can unlock defenses, a striker with a killer instinct, and probably a winger too, especially if Jota's going to miss a big chunk of next season. Brendan Rodgers has already hinted he's expecting 2 or 3 more signings, not counting Tierney, but honestly, that might not be enough. We signed 10 players last year. Vinicius Souza, Kasper Schmeichel, Bernardo Maeda, Alexandro Bernabé, Trusty Engels, Macaulay, Jota, and Schlupp. And while none of them were outright disasters, how many of them actually lifted the team to a new level? Schmeichel maybe. He had some clangers, especially at the end, but he also kept us in plenty of games earlier on. His experience helped, no doubt, but most of the others, fine, just fine. Not terrible, not brilliant, just fine. And fine isn't going to cut it. If we want to make a dent in Europe and dominate domestically, we need signings who move the needle, who get fans excited again, who walk into the starting 11 and make it better. That's what we're hoping for this summer. And if the early links to Milosavljevic and Kasuji are anything to go by, the recruitment team might finally be on the right path. Let's just hope we act quickly, do our business early, and set ourselves up for a massive season ahead. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers around Parkhead have grown louder in recent days, with the latest murmur suggesting that Spanish winger JAVI Puado is set to don the famous green and white hoops of Celtic. While official confirmation remains elusive, sources close to the club hint that the deal is all but done, with Puado himself reportedly promising to bring flair and excitement to the flanks of the Glasgow Giants. The Espanyol star, known for his blistering pace and technical prowess, has long been on the radar of several European sides, but it seems Celtic have won the race for his signature. The 26-year-old, who has impressed in La Liga with his direct running and eye for goal, is believed to view the Scottish Premiership as the perfect stage to showcase his talents while pushing for a regular place in the Spanish national squad. Rumors swirling around the East End suggest that manager Brendan Rodgers personally intervened to convince Puado of the project at Celtic Park. It's said that the gaffer sees him as the ideal addition to bolster the wings, bringing a new dimension to the boys' attacking play as they seek to assert dominance domestically and make a serious dent in European competition. While nothing's set in stone, the potential arrival of Puado has already set tongues wagging among the Celtic faithful. Supporters are dreaming of the prospect of the Spaniard terrorizing defenses up and down the country, weaving past full backs and linking up with the likes of Kyogo Furuhashi and Matt O'Reilly. Word has it that Puado himself, in private conversations, has vowed to put on a show for the fans, promising both goals and assists from the wide areas. As always with transfer whispers, caution is advised. There's many a slip between cup and lip, as the saying goes. And until the club makes an official statement, this remains firmly in the realm of speculation. That said, with several reputable sources all singing from the same hymn sheet, it seems there might be fire to this particular smoke. If the deal does indeed materialize, it could be a statement of real intent from Celtic, signaling their ambition to continue their domestic dominance and perhaps even go toe-to-toe with Europe's elite. For now, though, the fans will have to content themselves with the tantalizing prospect of JAVI Puado lighting up paradise very soon. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.